If we could get the speakers to come forward, please, that would be great. We are about ready to start our presentation. And it will begin with a blessing.
I stand before you today with my moccasins on the ground in honor of all my ancestors and relatives and those that were murdered unjustly. And I ask Creator, most of all, for each and every one of us, from every direction that we come from, and for every identity that we stand for. And I ask you all to help me today in your own hearts, with your own prayer, as I sing the honor song of my people. My father was an elder on the MSU Elders Council and has crossed over to the Happy Hunting Grounds. And it's in his honor and his mother's honor that I stand before you today with my moccasins on the ground. So as we face east and in every direction, I ask that you help me in your heart for our road today. Lem lem chusukut kokani. Lalam chusukul kokne. Aho.
Arlene Adams, thank you for blessing our gathering today. My name is Leanna Bertelson, and my purpose is to welcome you and thank you for showing up today. So, why do we march? Why are we even here? I've been asking myself that question, and I've been asked that question from the moment I said that I would help organize this event. And from my perspective, today is not about protesting. Today is a demonstration of the strength of women in our communities and all that we do. And it's not to say that, or to diminish, that there are things happening right now that I feel very strongly about, and probably many of you do too, that I want to protest about, that I want to push against. But I want to move past that, because what I really want is action. So what I'd like you to do is look around at each other and look at yourselves. And what are the actions that you are already doing? What are the things that the women around you are doing for their communities and their families? You know, I know you. You know what you do, and you know what you're committing to. There are so many amazing women in Bozeman, Livingston, Belgrade, across Montana, who are making strong contributions and making a difference in people's lives. It might be that you run a nonprofit. It might be that you write research grants. It might be that you're just volunteering in schools, or that you're somebody that someone you love can count on for a cup of coffee and a steady voice. And all those things matter. Whether they seem like they're grand things that you're doing or small things, they all are important and they all matter. So today, I want you to look around, and we're here to broaden our collective perspective and hear from the many voices and the shared stories so we can shine a light on what's happening in our communities. And I'm really excited to hear the people who have committed to talking and bringing forth their stories today. So with that, I want to welcome you to the 2019 Gallatin and Park County March. And here's our Master of Ceremonies, one very talented performer, teacher, mother, activist, and strong female voice in our community, Kara Wilder.
It takes a village, and here we are. Thank you, Leanna. And on behalf of our tireless planning committee, including Leanna, of course, thank you for attending today. And you too. Let's see. Oh, we've got how many? Just what time is it? Oh, one bell. That's all. All right. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that as of November, thanks to the boots on the ground from all of you, our house looks more like our nation today. And as Leanna was saying, I believe today is as much about acceptance as it is resistance. A show that of acceptance of all of our neighbors, regardless of race, creed, color, gender, or sexual identification. And I would like to begin with just a very short poem by a woman named Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And one of our young voices today speaking, we're so happy to have many young and voices from our community and surrounding communities. Our first speaker is Florence Doyle. She is a Bozeman High School freshman. She loves theater, right on, languages, and meeting new people. Her next performance will be in the new adaptation of Hamlet later this month at the Ellen. Please welcome Florence Doyle.
Okay, I haven't public spoken in a while, so. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Bajime Wachelish. My English name is Florence Doyle. I am an enrolled member of the Crow tribe and a freshman at Bozeman High School. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here today. I'd like to welcome you to my homeland, shared by Montana's 13 sovereign tribal nations. As this continent's original people, Native Americans have been the surveyors of change for more than... good. Native Americans have been the surveyors of change for more than 12,500 years. For 12,500 years, we have fed, clothed, and educated immigrants for survival and success. We have We have persevered respect for families and children in our cultural foundations. We resonate with the trauma inflicted on families when bonds between parents and children are forcibly broken. We use our voices and our values to say this is wrong because our Creator blessed us with a protector's heart. For 12,500 years, we have stewarded the land we share. What you have come to love as your public lands today, Native people stewarded for centuries. Even with our original populations that rivaled the masses in Europe, we squandered neither our water nor our lands. No other group has put their lives on the line more bravely for a patch of dirt or a puddle of water to remain unmolested so that we can all share in the wellness it offers. And don't think it happens just once at Standing Rock. Truly, it happened over and over and over with picks and shovels, guns, germs and steel, paper and pen. We keep standing up for our lands, the ones we share with you, because we have a protector's heart. For 12,500 years, we have generated and maintained democracy. We believe in the sovereignty of people and the natural world, and we have built these foundational beliefs into our social patterns that would one day secure the rights we have today in the United States Constitution. Our belief in sovereignty compels us to respect human dignity and agency. Dictatorships were not endorsed in our past, nor are they today. We maintain and assert that the Creator made each creation worthy in its own right, because we were given a protector's heart. For 12,500 years, Native American women have been investing in a legacy of courage, compassion, and competence. Today, I want to encourage all of us young ladies. There's a lot of depression and discouragement out there. A million times a day, we feel like we don't measure up, but there is one way to rise up against that lie. We do our best with what's in front of us, proud of who we were created to be. Maria Growing Thunder from Polson, Montana, has sewn more than 170 ribbon skirts, each in honor of an American Indian woman who was missing or murdered. She organized the annual Save Our Sisters 80-mile walk to bring awareness to the fact that for every one woman murdered in this nation, 10 Native American women lie dead. Something is very wrong when one woman is lost. Something is deeply wrong when there are 10. How do we rise up against wrongs that are so wrong? We do our best with what we have been given. Maria carries a sign for all of us. I belong here, it says. After 30 attempted suicides among friends in one summer, Jocelyn Charger dedicated herself to launching the One Mind Youth Movement. Working to address the crisis of trauma Native youth have inherited, they believed they would also inherit an environmental crisis, so they directed their action at the Dakota Access Pipeline threatening their homes. What began as an action to protect friends from suicide turned into a national movement to protect land and water for everyone. Many of us are familiar with No Dapple, but few realize it was launched by a small group of grieving teens. The One Mind Youth Movement established the first paracamp just off the pipeline access route that would soon become the Sacred Stone Camp at Standing Rock, the global symbol of unity and nonviolent protest against big wrongs. Alyssa Getstown had friends who couldn't afford dresses to prom, so she lent out 2 extras she had. It wasn't enough to meet the need, and she wouldn't settle for the thought that life is tough and some girls just don't get to go. She put out a call and organized the donations of those who responded. An event that was only for some girls became a night of beauty for every girl. These ladies show us that great things can start small. 1 skirt, 1 mile, 1 prayer, 1 dress. That's something each of us can do. Even if what we do doesn't turn into a worldwide movement, we've had the opportunity to practice compassion and courage with competence, the virtues of strong Native women. Being a protector means stepping up and taking care of our relationships with the environment, between men, women, and children, with our families and friends, with our neighbors and communities, and with humanity. Today, I want to encourage all the young women here, including myself, let's be on the lookout. Let's guard our minds and ignite our ambition. Let's be careful we won't end up just watching videos about other young women warriors. Let's take up our protectors' hearts and become the girls other people make videos about. Let's make our own DIYs with real solutions to real problems. Most importantly, let's find what matters in our world and protect it. Oh.
Thank you, Florence. Erica Ross was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Erica is a third-year graduate student in Native American Studies here at MSU. And as an activist for Native American women and women's rights, Erica serves as a strong ally to Native women and tribal communities. Erica Ross.
I stand before you today as a non-Native aspiring ally to Indigenous communities. Specifically, I'm here to discuss missing and murdered Indigenous women. What I'm not here to do, however, is to speak on behalf of Native tribes about this issue, because I can assure you, tribes don't need anyone to speak on their behalf. So I address you as a graduate student who's researched this international crisis, who's compiled data, who's trying to make sense of convoluted law, and who deeply believes that everyone should know about this issue. Montana is home to 7 reservations, 13 tribal nations, and approximately 68,000 Native Americans. Overall, Native Americans make up roughly 6% of Montana's population, yet 30% of all missing Montanans are Native women. Unfortunately, nearly every state with a significant Native population shares a similar statistic. When we consider all Native women in the United States, we find that murder is the 3rd leading cause of death for Native women aged 10 to 24. In some reservation areas, Native women are murdered at a rate 10 times the national average. It is disgustingly fair to say that the biggest challenge facing Native teen girls and young women is staying alive to see their 30s. In a study conducted by the National Institute of Justice, researchers found that 56% of Native women experience sexual violence in their lifetime. The primary perpetrators of these violences are not Native. In actuality, 9 out of 10 victims designate their assailants to be non-Native men. Men who will likely never be caught, never be punished, never be jailed because of bureaucratic red tape. The 1885 Major Crimes Act decided jurisdiction for select crimes between Native offenders belonged to the FBI because Congress did not trust tribes to correctly enforce Western law. Then in 1978, a Supreme Court case ruled that tribes do not have the authority to prosecute non-natives who perpetrate crime on reservations. Further, a century's worth of federal policies aimed at assimilating tribal communities have resulted in reservations that are checkerboarded with different land designations. Federally owned land, tribally owned land, and even state-owned land can be found within reservation boundaries. Each land distinction results in a different policing agency that responds to crime. Unfortunately, the uncertainty about where a crime was committed and who committed the crime often delays or completely nullifies investigations. Additionally, the federal, state, and tribal agencies do not share a central database to record these cases. These reasons are why many MMIW cases go unreported, uninvestigated, unsolved. These complications are why we do not know exactly how many women are missing and murdered. It is estimated that roughly 5,700 Native women are missing and murdered, but we owe it to those women and we owe it to those families to know exactly how many women have fallen victim to this crisis. A 2010 study found that the U.S. Attorney's Office failed to prosecute 67% of sexual abuse cases, homicides, disappearances, and other violent crimes against Native women. 67%. 67%. Montana Senator John Tester has begun arguing for the FBI and the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Senate to make whatever changes are necessary to end this crisis. But what can we do? We start with educating ourselves. I've compiled a list of YouTube videos, podcasts, books, films, websites. There's a list at one of these tables. Who has the MMIW list? Shout it out. Straight in the back. Before you leave here today, snap a photo of that list. Commit to yourself that you will learn everything that you can about MMIW. Knowledge is power. Create national change. Call, write, email officials demanding changes in policy that support transparency between federal, state, and tribal agencies. Support tribal governance and the return of prosecutorial rights to tribal courts. Support legislation like Savannah's Act, like the Violence Against Women Act. Both acts are currently stalled. We need to be speaking up about that. We need Congress to know that is not acceptable. Demand that our federal government commit to ending this crisis now. Create local change. Wear red. How many here are in red? We wear red for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. We wear red for the families still seeking justice. Hold men accountable. Confront the men in our lives about male culture that degrades, mocks, and hypersexualizes Native women. Intersectionalize our feminism. Support Native women. Support Native communities. End the silence. Keep this conversation going and encourage local media like the Bozeman Chronicle to regularly cover this topic. Publishing photos of missing and murdered Indigenous women. We have to do better for our Indigenous sisters. We can do better for our Indigenous sisters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. And now another powerful young voice from our community, a recent graduate from Bozeman High School, Claire Hendricks was a delegate to the 62nd UN Commission on the Status of Women. She is also a peer educator at Bozeman High. And Claire, she's a dynamo. She's also Forward Montana's local voter registration organizer. Claire Hendricks, everybody.
Today we're here for women. Thank you. We're here to support, affirm, and celebrate each other as we stand in solidarity together. We're here for LGBTQ+ women, disabled women, single mothers, women who have served our country, and all of us here today who help make our world a better place. But a group of women we often forget about are missing and murdered Indigenous women. The women who have been senselessly stolen from their friends, family, and home. In Montana, between January and September of 2018, 32 new cases of missing and murdered women were reported. But name one time you've seen a news source or media outlet report on this issue. Name just one of the 32 women who have been taken. Although this crisis plagues our state and many others, the reporting of these cases are criminally low. Native women are being silenced even in life, as their cases and situations continue to go unreported and unnoticed. We stand here today on ground that once belonged to Native people, but we turn a blind eye to the issues that Native women face every day. The lack of media coverage regarding missing and murdered women is shockingly low, which perpetuates the issue of miseducation and unawareness. We are unaware of the many families who continue to mourn the loss of their daughters, mothers, and sisters. For those who are aware of the growing number of missing and murdered women in Montana, we are left feeling helpless. What do we do about it? How can we help? How can we prevent this from continuing? As if they haven't suffered greatly in the past, Native women and their families live in fear that a woman they know could be the next to disappear without a trace. The root of the problem begins with police investigation, or lack thereof. If the people who are supposed to protect and serve don't pay attention, then why should anybody else? Because of the lack of investigations that have resolution or even evidence, media sources fail to shed light on an increasingly dire issue. This leads to no one being active or aware in efforts to find these women and bring justice to their perpetrators. Being Indigenous is not a prerequisite to understand this crisis. Understanding that Native women continue to suffer daily is just the beginning. I urge you to ask more of the people who don't share these stories of pain and loss. Learn more about the women who have gone missing. Include these women in your hearts today. Now is the time for action. It is not enough simply to learn, but to do. These women deserve to return home safely. They deserve the same reverence and respect as any woman, regardless of race. Their families deserve peace and resolve, and to know that the women they love are safe. No family deserves to scour a 1.5 million acre reservation in search of a daughter they may never see again. I am so honored today to be here alongside so many amazing and powerful women who are fighting for change. Thank you to all of the legislators who continue to institute laws that protect Native women, including Senator John Tester, who this week spoke out about the urgency of this issue. We cannot understand the senseless taking of our sisters, but we can help to spread awareness of this crisis and bring these women home safely. Together, we can help put an end to the violence that Indigenous women experience and the suffering that their families are burdened with. In this time of hatred and violence against women, the utmost against Indigenous women, we must continue to lift our voices in the name of justice. Thank you so much for being here today and continuing to uplift and support Native women.
Thank you, Claire. Holly Oldcrow is our next speaker. She is from Lodgegrass, Montana. She's a member of the Absalaga Nation. She is an MSU political science student hoping to make a career defending the rights of Indigenous people. Please welcome Holly Oldcrow.
Yeah. Can you guys all hear me in the back? All right. Kaha. Balaja Baja Halen Chesh Itchik Dalom. Welcome, my name is White Amongst the Clouds. I'm glad you came. Today I stand here on historical tribal land as the great-granddaughter of Chief Old Crow. With the opportunity and the responsibility to speak on behalf of our sisters whose voices were stolen. I start by asking, why are we valuable? Why are we worth your attention? Native women are the sole link to our identity, our bloodline, our culture, our future, and our legacies. As Native women, we have been given the ability to bring children to this life that will continue our traditions and history, and that will be passed down to the next generation. When we lose these women to violence, we are losing that direct tie to our identity. We lose the ability to pass our wisdom to our children and our grandchildren. And once our women are lost, we've lost a line of culture. These stories I hear about Native women, whether it's from my community or another, always makes me feel anxious and vulnerable and aware of who I am as a person. I once told a friend that because of these incidences, my way of thinking has changed. For instance, last semester I took a class that ended when it was dark out. And before I would leave the building, I would text a friend or two and tell them where I was and where I was going before I walked. This walk was 0.2 of a mile, only 3 minutes worth of a walk from this building to the garage. But because of the tragedies that have fallen on Native women, I felt compelled to take extra precautions because of the idea that as a Native woman, I have a target on my back. I know I speak for other Native women when I say we have to think about our safety on an entirely different level. In these situations, I find myself thinking about these women in their last moments and how scared they were. These women who were praying for the hope to survive, praying for a different outcome. These women who cried for their children and their families. These women who were seconds away from their voices being stolen. Imagine growing up with your sister, your mother, your best friend at your side, sharing stories, memories, crying on each other's shoulders. Then think about when you would hold her hand through the tough times and she cheered you on in the great times. And then imagine that disappearing or tragically lost. Imagine the pain and panic of your worst fears you'd feel and the memories that are giving you endless hope that she'd return home to you. Imagine you not getting answers and constantly praying for good news. And imagine the desperation and longing to have them back in your arms safe. And as you imagine, remember, this is a reality for a lot of us. Today, I have generations of resilient and powerful Native women behind me. And I've been given the incredible opportunity to raise 2 children and raise another generation of my Apsáalooke culture, to receive an education here, and an opportunity to stand here with you all. And with that comes a responsibility to speak for my sisters whose chances of those opportunities and voices were stolen from them. Right now, I'd like you to take a look around at all the people wearing red. They represent hundreds of women who fell victim to violence. Women like Savannah Graywin, Royland Rideshorse, Ashley Heavy Runner, Charlene Longtime Sleeping, Dee Dee Bryn, Henny Scott, Hannah Harris, Jermaine Morgeau, Tristan Gray, Misty Upham, and so many others. And like those in the red today, they have all taken a duty to speak for our lost sisters. And I ask you to join us in giving them a voice. We call on all of you to go home and keep talking about the importance of our women. We call on you to demand our law enforcement and our government make this a priority. And we call on you to stand with us in solidarity. And I'm asking you today, will you be our ally?
Thank you, Holly. Bridget Wilkinson is our next speaker. She's the executive director of the Bozeman Area Community Foundation and was recently named one of Bozeman's 20 under 40. Last year, Bridget gave a TEDx Bozeman presentation on how community can be a solution to the epidemic of loneliness. Please welcome Bridget Wilkinson.
What an incredible group of speakers to be a part of and to follow. It is an absolute privilege to be here with you today, because today we're marching for so many things. We're marching for women's rights, and by showing up today, you are saying that women matter, that our community matters, and that is powerful. In today's world, it is easy to become overwhelmed by the challenges that we face as women. We're overwhelmed by the issues in our neighborhoods, our communities, and even our nation. Fear seems rampant, and politics seems so divided. And as you know, global challenges that we face as women are so complex. No one of us can solve these challenges alone. These challenges are dependent on our ability to bring people to the table, from local governments, nonprofits, businesses, faith communities, and more, to be having civil conversations on how we can each be a part of a bigger solution. This act of civic engagement is the foundation of a democratic society. Anthropologist Margaret Mead once said that we should never solely depend on institutions or government to solve any problem. All social movements are founded by, guided by, motivated, and seen through by the passion of individuals. That is why you are here today, to be a part of a solution that is bigger than yourself, recognizing that we can't do this work alone. Millions of women across the country and the world joined together on January 21st, 2017 for the Women's March. For many, it was an eye-opening experience that inspired them into activism. This event spurred many women to show up for their communities, their state, and their nation in powerful ways. Since 2017, the amount of women elected to state legislature and Congress has increased, and progress is being made every day. And yes, these challenges that we face as a nation, they're overwhelming. And yet, at the Bozeman Area Community Foundation, I see something very different. I get the privilege of seeing individuals like you that are making big changes in communities every day. I mean, today we heard from some of them. I see community members that are advocating at city commission meetings to end discrimination against women locally by volunteering for the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW for short. I see women working to end domestic violence and to create safer neighborhoods by volunteering their skills and resources to support the local nonprofits such as Haven. I see community members empowering local women business owners to thrive through entities like Prospera's Women Business Center, or to advocate for reproductive health like Bridger Care. Of the many changemakers that I see every day, I see three common themes on how they are moving the needle on issues that matter most to them. First, they show up. Showing up is half the battle, y'all. So I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to give them a high five. And now, I want you to say, great job on showing up today. It's important that we celebrate showing up for our community. In today's social media age, we often feel like we're connected because we scroll through Facebook and we like other people's political posts, or argue with them for that matter. However, today is more important than ever to connect with our neighbors face to face. Social media can be used as an activism tool, but it can't stop there. We need to invest time in showing up for things that we believe in by volunteering for causes that inspire us, attending local government meetings, voting, or by simply bringing a meal to a neighbor who you know is struggling. We each have our own capacity for showing up for our community, and it looks different for all of us. But social media is not enough. To have your voice heard, you need to be present at the table like you are today. Number 2, they listen. When these community members show up, they often do so with the intent to listen, not necessarily to be the loudest voice in the room. Many of us listen as a means to an end. We are waiting for somebody to finish their thoughts so we can interject our own argument. But change makers often listen deep enough to be changed by what they hear. Their perspectives are broadened, and they're listening to people they might not always agree with to see if they can find common ground. Listening is key to being able to empathize with the conditions of people who might be different than you. And in today's political dividedness, community members from all ends of the political spectrum must be at the table to solve these complex issues. We don't always have to agree. In fact, that's how our country's political system was created. But it is in our best interest to listen to better understand the challenges that we're facing together. And finally, they act. So as community members, we have varying levels of what I call 4 T's: time, talents, treasures, and ties that we can leverage to move a cause like women's rights forward. Change makers are keenly aware of the 4 T's they have and use them to make tangible changes every day. We don't all have the same resources or skills as our neighbors, but we all have something to contribute. We vote every day with our 4 T's about the community that we want to live in. Today, by participating in the Women's March, you are showing up for women's rights. You are listening to community members share their perspectives, and you are acting by participating in a movement. Show up, listen, and act. That is powerful stuff. The Bozeman Area Community Foundation, in partnership with a local organization called Future West, created an initiative to inspire people to show up, listen, and to act. Last October, our initiative was called A Seat at the Table. And we asked communities from West Yellowstone to Big Sky, Manhattan to Three Forks, Belgrade to Bozeman, to participate in conversations in one day over a cup of coffee or a meal. The goal of these conversations were to discuss how to collaboratively build and maintain strong, safe, inclusive, and dynamic communities. A Seat at the Table was designed to generate new ideas, inspire bold solutions, and cultivate relationships for the betterment of communities countywide. We invited volunteers to host conversations in their homes, their faith communities, local nonprofits, businesses, and parks. We hosted conversations in the detention center with male and female inmates and alongside low-income community members at the Fork and Spoon Pay What You Can restaurant. The goal was to have more than 1,000 people of all ages, walks of life, socioeconomic circumstances participate in 100 conversations throughout Gallatin County. And during these conversations, we asked community members to talk about 3 things. What do you love most about this place you call home? What are your greatest challenges living here? And what's your idea to make this community a better place? And while we're still compiling all the data to report back to the community, there is one thing that stood out among all of these conversations, which was the desire to have more of them. We heard from so many community members how rare it is to sit down with neighbors, some of whom you might not agree with, and have civil dialogue about this place that we love. Proudly, women took a lot of seats around those tables, as 2/3 of our participants were women. A Seat at the Table encouraged this really innovative concept of face-to-face conversations with other thinkers and doers to find common ground and common cause. It asked community members to move their ideas from their tables to places all around the county to make powerful things happen. Because we know that big ideas can spark from small conversations and people invest in what they help create. In this challenging political climate, we need more community members who are willing to show up, listen, and act to improve their community. Because community is a 2-way street. We can't simply rely on others to create this change. We have to participate like you are today. We need many voices at the table in our community. So take a moment and look around you. Who's not marching with us today? Why do you think that is? In order to continue to move women's rights forward, we must build a bigger table. So how will you show up, listen, and act this week to make a change on an issue that matters most to you and to build a bigger table? Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Our next speaker has been working with diverse communities to protect Montana's public lands for over 20 years and currently works for the Northern Rockies office of the Wilderness Society, Barb Sestero.
Can everybody hear me? Does that work? All right. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, organizers, and thank all of you for showing up today. Well done. I am humbled to be up here with this amazing group of women advocates and leaders who are doing such critically important grassroots group on behalf of our state and all of us and this incredible place that people have called home for millennia. I stand with them and all of you in all of this work. Today I've been asked to talk a little bit about how to take action for our local public lands. Yeah, so if you're cold, feel free to jump around when I ask these questions if they apply to you. But who here loves to go skiing up Highlight in the wintertime? And who here often gets out to Windy Pass in the early summer to see the wildflowers? Who here rides their bike to Emerald Lake? And who here picnics with their family out in the Gallatin Range? Yeah, these places are why we live here, and public lands are something that can really bring us together. Pretty much everyone I know, and probably you as well, enjoys getting out in our backyard mountains just to the south of town, whether it's for a picnic with friends and family, or a hike, or to ride their bike, to hunt, to fish, to snowmobile. Pretty much anything we like to do recreationally, we can find a spot to do it in the Gallatin Range. The truth is, though, all of that use can stress out the very things we love about the Gallatin Range. The elk and the bears that roam those mountains and need that habitat, the clean water that we drink, the trails, that sense of being able to get away from it all when we're in the mountains. And all of that use can cause conflicts between those of us that love to be out in public lands as well. The good news is, right now, today, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to shape the future of these wild public lands and ensure that we leave the same opportunities to connect with nature for our kids and grandkids that we enjoy today. The Custer-Gallatin National Forest is updating its overall management plan, and that's the document that will guide stewardship of those lands for the next 20 to 30 years. And what's more, a diverse group of recreationists, conservationists, business people, and community members have come together to reach agreement around the Gallatin Range's future, and we've asked the Forest Service to adopt that as their plan for that range. The Gallatin Forest Partnership, of which I'm a proud member, is proposing about 250,000 acres of new conservation protections for the Gallatin and Madison Ranges that will protect the places we love for their wildlife, clean water, and undeveloped landscapes, and will maintain the access for recreation that we enjoy today. Our agreement includes some new wilderness. It includes some places to go ride mountain bikes. It includes places to hunt and fish, to ride snowmobiles, and areas in the front country where we might build some new trails in the future. And most importantly, this agreement will give wildlife room to roam by limiting future development up in the Gallatin Range, south of town. So we have some specific actions that all of you can help us with right now, and it starts by lending your voice and your support to the Gallatin Forest Partnerships Agreement. While prospects for progress in the national stage can feel frustrating and discouraging, we can make progress here locally because of this unique opportunity. So please stop by our table over there. Scott and Emily are hanging out, ready to help. You can pull out your phone right now, take a picture of that QR code, go to gallatinpartners.org and add your endorsement for this agreement. Right here today, because our public lands need all of our voices. Right now, I'll also say that our friends and neighbors who take care of these lands for us also need us. Because the folks at the Forest Service and other federal agencies, those charged with caring for the Gallatin Range and managing it for us, are out of work or they're not getting paid. So I have two very specific things for everyone to do today. The first is we all need to call on our entire congressional delegation and tell them to end the government shutdown now. We need the Forest Service at work caring for these treasured landscapes. And then the second thing I'll ask is that you join us at the Gallatin Forest Partnership in our work to secure the permanent conservation of the Gallatin Range. Again, swing by our table and Scott and Emily can help. You add your voice today because we all want to take care of our backyard. This forest plan revision is how we get to do that, how we get to be involved locally and make a difference. It's our best opportunity for progress right here today to protect this amazing place that we are all so lucky to call home. So thank you.
We have just two more speakers, and then we have a really fascinating, wonderful way to close out our rally, so thank you for staying. Our next speaker, Michelle Ubaraga, serves as the Executive Director for the Park County Environmental Council in Livingston, a community-based conservation group in Yellowstone's Northern Gateway. She's also helped launch a local chapter of Moms Clean Air Force. Here's Michelle Ubaraga.
Slippery. Well, thank you. Yes, what an honor it is to be here today, surrounded by all these incredible and powerful women. My name is Michelle Ubaraga, and I work with the Park County Environmental Council just over the hill in Livingston. I've spent the last 4 years working very closely with members of my community to safeguard the headwaters of the Yellowstone River from 2 proposed gold mines. We are hardworking folks fighting shoulder to shoulder against corporate mining interests, and we are winning. A united community is a difficult force to stop. I've seen it with my own eyes, how unity and inclusion build power. To my fellow speakers, I want to say thank you. I want to acknowledge that we will all fail as leaders, as women, when our sisters across the state are being made invisible. It's critical that I begin by acknowledging my own privilege. That as a white woman, I don't worry about whether my lighter-skinned children will make it home safe from school. This everyday lack of worry is a privilege. My ability to work as a public lands advocate, or as Florence said, a protector, that is also a privilege. And speaking before you is truly an honor. I am humbled to work with my community to protect our shared sacred lands. We are not the first people to fight for these lands, and we will not be the last. But this moment in history, I can say that over the past, a community stands united for our shared sacred lands. I'm often asked by people who don't seem to understand Montana, how are you doing it? And so I've openly shared our not-so-secret strategy. We succeed because we are working together for a common goal. We set aside our personal politics. We take the time to earn trust and respect. We sit down and we listen to one another. We lift each other up. And we stand alongside each other for issues that may not be our own. This is the definition of community. And this is how women lead. We make room for everyone at the table. Please Please take this to heart if you hear nothing else today. We win when we share power. Women win and our communities win. So it was just over 3 years ago that we first learned of this proposed gold mine in Yellowstone's Gateway, near the headwaters of the Yellowstone River. I have never seen a community rally with such drive and passion to safeguard the headwaters of our river, the public lands, the wildlife, the people, and the jobs that depend upon clean water in our community. Thousands of public comments flooded the Forest Service. We literally crashed the Department of Environmental Quality's servers with our comments. And we were just getting warmed up. Somebody said it's going to take an act of Congress to protect those public lands. So we got to work. Together with partners and our allies, the Yellowstone Gateway Business Coalition, our community rallied at coffee shops, breweries, backyard barbecues, fly shops, fairgrounds, baseball games, and more. People attended dozens of events with decision makers, hundreds of meetings, and even made it all the way to Washington, D.C., some more than once. Leaders in our community pulled us all together and inspired us to use our collective voice. We represented different walks of life and different values, but we were crystal clear in our message. Yellowstone is more valuable than gold. No one individual can accomplish what we did in such a short time, and it's amazing to see the results. In April 2017, Senator John Tester introduced the Yellowstone Gateway Protection Act to permanently protect 30,000 acres of public lands at the headwaters of the Yellowstone River. In December 2017, Representative Greg Gianforte introduced the same bill in the House. Our entire delegation is united behind the Yellowstone Gateway Protection Act. We are very close to passing federal legislation that will permanently protect Yellowstone's northern gateway from industrial mining. It's pretty incredible. One of the greatest lessons I've learned, your voice matters. The voices of real people matter. Our decision makers need to hear from us, and they really actually prefer to hear from real people. I know, I've been witness to it over and over again. It's never wasted time to sit down with a cup of coffee, face to face, Bridget, and chat. Our decision makers need to hear from us. Walking in DC, underneath the looming brick walls of power, sitting at tables with men, it can be pretty daunting. Don't be discouraged. It's your opinions that matter. And that starts right here at home. Make the time to meet with your city commissioners, county commissioners, state legislators, and more. This is our government. So we aren't quite done. We need your help. First, you can go to our website. It's pcecmt.org. Here you can sign our petition and ask your representative to support the Yellowstone Gateway Protection Act. Become a member. Stay in touch. If you own a business, join the Yellowstone Gateway Business Coalition at don'tmindyellowstone.com. Next, get to know your local representatives, county commissioner, senator. Set up a meeting, talk about the issues that you care about. It matters. Tell them about the missing and murdered Indigenous women. Tell them about the Yellowstone Gateway Protection Act. Tell them whatever cause is in your heart. And finally, don't stop there. Join a board, join a committee. Get involved in the issues in your community. Better yet, run for office. We need you. Okay, I'm gonna end with a quick story. This past election, a woman in our community was running for the State House. Some of you may know Quenbe Andiario. She works at my son's school. My husband was picking up my son Luca from school right on or around election day, and he said to Quenbe, "I can't wait to vote for you tomorrow." And Luca turned to my husband and said, a bit sheepishly, "Dad, Quembe's not in our district. Our state rep is Lori Bishop." He's 7, and he knows what's going on. And I'm not surprised. I've brought him to a lot of meetings. So my first trip to DC to lobby was with a group called Moms Clean Air Force. And they said I was welcome to bring my kids, which was great. I didn't have childcare. So I flew across the country with a 1- and 3-year-old for meetings in the summer in DC. It's very hot in DC in the summer. So anyone that has ever flown with children
or attempted to take a toddler to a meeting can relate. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also one of the most meaningful. Often, there are big payoffs when we choose the hard things. We all have the responsibility to teach the next generation about the importance of our democracy, to show our decision makers what's at stake for them, for our youth. We have to teach our children that showing up matters, even when it's hard. And lastly, we have to give them some good options. Teach them to vote for women.
All right, I would love to see every single one of our speakers today run for office. How about you? Every single one of them. And I really wish our final speaker wasn't here today. She should not be here. She should be in Washington, D.C. right now. Our final speaker inspires many and motivates us all to action through her dedication to public service and volunteering. She has enjoyed a 36-year career in natural resources planning and policy spanning the public, private, and nonprofit sectors, and is a 3-term Montana state legislator. Last year, she won a 5-way primary election. She was the only woman. She was one of 2 women. Sorry. And she raised a boatload of donations. And she came the closest in over 20 years to unseating an incumbent in the race for Montana's lone seat in the U.S. Congress. So please welcome a woman who speaks out for the voiceless in our communities and works tirelessly for the good of all Montanans and knows, like all of us moms know, that Cheetos are bad for kids. Kathleen Williams.
So being literally the last woman standing up here, I want to invite everyone who's been up on this snowy stage to come back up here with me, including all the MMIW folks. Come on back up. Anyone who's still left, come on back up. Come on back up. Barb and Arlene, you're still here. Come on back up. This is about community, right? Yeah. Incredible. Hello, Montana women and all those who love them. This is great. Thanks for coming out today. I want to thank the organizers for putting together a wonderful gathering where we can talk about and celebrate women's accomplishments throughout our state and nation and community. And we can recognize the difficult issues related to missing and murdered Indigenous women. I'll tell you, over my 1 year of having an incredibly broad conversation with Montana, all over Montana, one of the greatest honors was to visit with our Native communities, both on and off reservation. There are issues in our Native communities, missing and murdered Indigenous women. I had a woman ask me that when I went to Congress to pass a bill that every vehicle entering a reservation had to have identification on the side. Can you imagine being that afraid in your own community? Can you? That's unacceptable, right? When I was at Crow Fair, there were ICE agents there, and I couldn't figure out why. And I asked a Native woman that I ran into in the trading post, why do you think the ICE agents are here? She said, I don't know, but it may be because when we have these gatherings, the children are running around and playing all together in these big family units, and they get stolen. Holy cow. In our state, in these times, that is something that is unacceptable as well. So, but there is beauty in our Native communities, an incredible honor was being invited to participate in grand entry and powwows. Being behind the Native princesses, they are beautiful. Their regalia is gorgeous. There is so much culture and history and myth and story to enjoy and to learn about in our Native cultures. We all owe it to ourselves and to our Native communities to explore that, celebrate that, and learn that. So tell me you'll do that, right? We're also talking about the outdoors today. What an incredible unifying force across Montana is our public lands and our commitment to our outdoor heritage, right? And thank you to our Native communities for the fact that we have that to celebrate today in modern eras. And the celebration of the community coming together in a consensus in Paradise Valley. It's called Paradise Valley for a reason, right? Yeah, so let's celebrate that. So as I said, I had a wonderful conversation with Montana over the past year. And one of the things that I think is really missing out there is having those conversations. And Bridget talked a little bit about that, about two-way aspects to conversations. So when you engage, the way that all the speakers have encouraged you to engage, make your voices heard, but my suggestion is to also ask your representatives either why or why not they are or aren't supporting reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Why are they not supporting the Savannah's law that's going to help with missing and murdered endangered women, Indigenous women, excuse me, they are endangered. Why aren't they supporting the Gateway Protection Act? Our delegation is, but when you talk to other people, ask them, get an answer, and study that answer. There's a bill called H.R. 1 that is about voting and about redistricting so that we all can continue to have a voice. Ask them, are they supporting that? If so, why or why not? Get an answer. So I was going to talk today about a lot of things that are important to women and be inspiring and esoteric and talk about those bills and the ridiculous federal partial government shutdown that we've got going on, which, by the way, is disproportionately affecting our Native communities, right? But I was at a meeting last night, and something was said there that kept me awake and made me throw out this idea of talking about the fact that we lost Mary Oliver recently, a wonderful poet. That we have the anniversary of a very important court case coming up that we all need to remember and get behind, right? Something was said last night that reminded me of some things that were said during the primary, when I was running the primary. Once in a while, well, actually more frequently than not, I would get someone asking me, yeah, but can a woman win? What? I'd get that a lot, actually. And at first I would say, well, you know, there's been more men that have lost this race from the party that I'm running from than women. Or I'd give them more statistics. And then by the end, I finally said, well, not if people like you keep saying that, right? So what happened? I won a 5-way primary against 4 men. So can a woman win? Okay, so I didn't get a lot of that during the general. I thought we were beyond that. Last night, among a group of women, some of them elected women, I got it again. Maybe women can only win primaries and not generals. What? You know how well we did? Well, first of all, Even asking that is a disservice to all the incredible women that have paved the way before all of us. The Dorothy X of the world, the Jeanette Rankins of the world, the Dorothy Bradleys of the world. Come on. It's also a disservice to all those young women coming behind us. How can we ask that? Can a woman win? Let me tell you how we won. We raised the most money in a Democratic race that has ever been raised in this state. We came the closest to unseating an incumbent that has ever happened in the last 20 years. We had a conversation all across Montana in 90 communities, over 60,000 miles. We had almost 250,000 Montanans voting for what? A woman, right? And then there's those people that say, like Erica mentioned, or who mentioned it? I'm so glad to be able to vote for a woman tomorrow. Well, great. My response to that was, yeah, but she's also the most qualified candidate, right? Don't compress my 36-year career, my 3 terms in the legislature, being a stepmom to 2 wonderful stepboys or stepsons and a crazy stepdog. Don't compress that just into my gender. Come on. Can a woman win? Right? So we did win in a lot of ways. I'm here, I'm not in Washington, so we still need to work on that, right? But you tell me, can a Native woman win? Can a woman win? Will you help women win? Are we going to win in 2020? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen Williams. Very empowering and inspiring. So we have kind of a fun way to close the rally today. And I want to thank again our great planning committee, which this planning started like months ago, just so you know. Thank you to Leanna and Delaney and all of the people who were involved in planning. Thank you all for giving up your part of your Saturday to come out today. This is an amazing turnout. And I am just so glad myself to be here. So, Shantae, come on up. He was a little shy about speaking, but I want him to tell you what he wants you to do himself. Shantae Mitchell Standing Rock is from Rocky Boy, Montana. He is an enrolled member of the Chippewa Cree. Shantae is an MSU student studying music technology and minoring in Native American Studies. And he serves as an ambassador for my school, the School of Arts and Architecture. Woohoo! And Shantae is the lead singer and drum keeper for the Bobcat Singers. So, Shantae, come on up and tell them what you want.
Good afternoon, everybody. I should be fine. Thank you. I'll just start by saying that thank you all for being here. I want to thank God for this nice, wonderful, beautiful day, this cold weather. The way we will be closing off is with one round dance song, and what we are all going to do is I'd like to form as many circles as we can, and we're going to dance clockwise. This way of singing, this way of dance, it comes from the Cree people, and then from there, many other tribes, they have adopted this way. So, thank you. So we're gonna form a circle around a circle around a circle. So I'm gonna stand in the middle and everybody form a circle around me.
Thank you. Wait, we're just moving in. Yeah.
Say hello to your friends and neighbors as you leave. Thank you so much.